The job market is changing, don't feel rushed, but things are changing. Start asking God to help you devise a plan. And it's all gonna fall into place. It's gonna be great, you're gonna be good, everything's gonna be fine. So we're gonna yap on the couch today. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Selena. I have decided to quit my job. Up on 9 weeks ago, decided to start a business, but it didn't happen overnight, and I feel like a lot of people probably have questions about how to do this. Maybe you're in a phase in your life where you're wondering if this is something that you should be doing, but maybe you don't have people around you that can help you feel like, yeah, it's possible. So I wanted to go into a story time on how I even got here. And I also want to preface this by saying that being an employee is amazing. Number one, because that part of your life arms you for being an entrepreneur. Like if that's something that you're interested in. So do not look at that part of your life as something that's just like a waste of your life. Trust me when I say you will learn and pick up so many skills that you can apply to your life like later. Trust and believe that. Everything you do, every job you've ever done is going to teach you what you like, what you don't like, and skills that you can definitely monetize as a business owner. I also want to preface this by saying that I didn't make any impulsive decisions. Everything was rooted in scripture. I did do a prayer and fast. That made a lot of difference. Right after doing a prayer and fast, that's when things started to change. That's when I started to realize like I needed to do this. At this point, I feel like jobs are just becoming, the job market is changing. Like, let's just be honest. Interesting. Being an owner is probably the only way that you'll be able to not live paycheck to paycheck in the future. Started to notice this trend like a few years ago, but really about a year ago is when I really noticed. In fact, I did post a video when I first started my YouTube channel because I had just gotten to my wit's end about it. If you want it, I will go ahead and link the card up here for that video. But that was when I realized that all of the systems, all of the things that I ever followed all my life would lead me to paycheck lifestyle. And I realized that it wouldn't leave a legacy and it wouldn't benefit anyone other than me scraping by and trying to pay my bills. Let's get into it. Basically, I got my aesthetics license back in 2014. I did this because I realized that I was a creative and that I thrived mostly through using my hands. And I had this knack for just like making things prettier. I loved to make things beautiful. I don't know, it was just something that I always did since I was little, and I had a fascination with that like from a very young age. I loved beauty, but not just because of the vanity aspect of it. Like I genuinely just loved watching the transformation of watching things become beautiful. And so after many failed attempts at trying to be an employee, whether it be through like a finance job, I worked in the bank, I worked in retail, I worked in restaurant business, I worked in hospitality. Hospitality was the longest streak I ever had, and a lot of the skills that I learned in hospitality I still use to this day. And actually everything that I learned in those jobs are still things and skills that I use to this day, so none of it was a waste of my time. But I learned like that after a certain amount of time I noticed that I would get bored, and I thought that there was something wrong with me. It's actually gonna make me emotional because for the longest time I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just hold down a job? Why can't I just be satisfied with like the complacency of just like having a job and like clocking in, clocking out? Why is it that after years like 3 to 5 I always end up getting bored? So anyway, that's a side note, but I got my aesthetics license. I started to pursue, the aesthetics industry. I ended up going into lashing, which I did that for 8 years, and I also ended up being a solo lash artist. But then the pandemic hit, right? And the pandemic shifted a lot of things for me. I also went through a rock bottom in my life, which has a lot to do with my testimony and how God entered the chat and like how I developed my relationship with him. And just, you know, I'm not going to go into that. That can be a different video for a different time, but I was so mentally distraught in such a dark place that even though my clients wanted me to keep showing up to my business, I couldn't. And I really feel like that was God's blessing because it redirected me. When I finally started to get the mental bandwidth to start my business back up, I started off slow. I started in my parents' house. They let me use my closet space and I turned it into like a little studio, and that was really cool, and I was starting to get busy again. But then at one point, one of my clients said to me, like, you should really consider changing careers. So anyways, she said, like, you'd be amazing in skin. So I took up her offer. She had a medical spa. She trained me on how to use the hydrofacial machine. And then from there, I was like, wow, this is so fun. But the only problem is her medical spa wasn't it wasn't a busy business, and I wanted to get my hands dirty. Like, I really wanted to get in there. So I started to look for jobs. I found a job, and I ended up working my way up into that job. I was really passionate. I love the fact that I got to work with my hands. And after many years of having this, I guess, like, thought in my head that I wasn't ever going to be a good employee, I said, okay, God, like, I'm gonna just surrender to being an employee, and I want to do my best at this. So for the first time ever, being an employee, I started to like love it, and it taught me so many skills about like how to take direction, how to do things the way another person would want to, how to protect the interests of a boss, right? How to work with different personalities, and how to show up every day, and how to help that person build their business. So that was a really great experience. I got up to management, so at one point I got to manage the team, and that also gave me great experience too because, sorry, my cats are tussling. Other cat has zoomies, but I ended up learning a lot of skills. Like, I think just like learning how to manage a team and learning how to manage the inventory and keep all that up gave me the stamina and the bandwidth to arm me to become a business owner, right? So I think that's why I want to reflect back on that point that I made at the beginning, which is no job is ever a waste of time. Every single skill, like if you're smart, you will make sure that you're studying the art of learning that skill, taking note of it, and bringing it with you into your arsenal of skills, right? So, like I said, everything that I learned during my employment, which was 10 weeks ago, 11 weeks now, is still to this day being implemented. And because I had so much weight on my shoulders, because I didn't have a second party helping me with the weight of managing a whole business, the owners moved. They moved to a different state, and everything on my shoulders, I had to like, and I was just one person. Mind you, like, I never thought that I was going to be a leader, but I think God allowed me to experience that for a reason. There came a point where my clients were actually suggesting it to me. You know, they were telling me like, hey, would you ever consider opening up your own thing? And for many, I would say like they started asking me that probably around year 3. Yeah, around year 3. And I was at that company for like 4.5 years. When they first started asking me that, my mindset was very closed off to the option because I was very happy and satisfied working for this company. As you know, with most jobs, your boss can only give you so much. You know, your paycheck can only go so far. The state that I live in is getting super, super expensive. Materials are getting more expensive. And I feel like my checks just weren't cutting it anymore. Inflation, you know, and I had to really sit down with myself and ask myself, imagine, you have to have this conversation with yourself too. I had to ask myself, like, is this really it? Like, are we just clocking in and out? scraping by every week, hoping that we're going to make it. And so after a prayer and fast, which I fasted for about 3 days, no food, just water and of course coffee, because I needed coffee, and intentionally sought the Lord. I prayed, was in my scriptures, went to church, and then a few days after that I just had one meal a day, and I just dedicated that time to seeking the Lord. And after that prayer and fast, I got the revelation that I needed to stop running away from the calling to start my own business. Like I said, for the longest time I didn't want that. I didn't want it because it felt like such a burden, because it's just like so hard. Like running a business is not easy. There's so much that goes into it. It is quite stressful. I mean, you have to really be passionate about what you're doing, you know? And so I didn't want that. I saw what my boss went through. I like, even just being a manager was like, oh my gosh, like just the idea of doing it, I just didn't want that. So I prayed about it, and then I got the revelation that I needed to do it. And God will do that, dude. He will do that to you. He will tell you, like, I need you to do this. And the ways that you know it's from God is if you pray about it and it's confirmed through his scriptures, it's confirmed through dreams, it's confirmed through other people just will start talking to you about it. Like if it's rooted in his word, that's how you know. And so I was on my way to a hair appointment. Actually, I had a hairstylist that I've been seeing for the last like 3 months, and I just prayed about it, and I was just like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then you're going to have Lauren bring it up to me. So I go to my hair appointment, and sure enough, my hair lady brings it up to me. Like, she's the one who suggests it to me. Not only that, she has also, because she's in the same industry as me, but she's in hair, right? So I'm in skin, she's in hair. She has done the same thing over and over again, multiple times. She gave me the exact blueprint on how to do it. How is it that the right person confirmed God's revelation to me? Like, that's how God works, right? He will work through people. He will work through all kinds, imperfect people, people who don't even know him. He will use anybody and everybody to confirm something to you. If you're seeking him, you're truly seeking him with all your heart, he's going to do that. So I said, okay, God, now the next thing you need to do, once you confirm that God is saying what he's saying is what he's saying, then you need to have a serious talk with him, and you need to tell him that you agree with him, and that you don't know how it's going to happen, but that you agree. So you just need to tell him yes. So that's what I did. I said, okay, on my drive, I said, okay, God, like, you have my yes. I don't know how it's going to happen, but you have my yes. So he had my yes. And let's scoot back to like the past. During the pandemic, when I was getting to know him, before any of this started, he had me saving every single check, every single dollar during the pandemic. And then also when I started at my job, he had me saving checks when I was living at my parents' house, because now I live on my own. But for like the first year, I lived with my parents while working for them. So during that year, he had me save like 80% of my checks. So because of that savings, God gave me the blueprint. So what you need to do if you're trying to leave your job is, number one, you got to make sure you have that savings account. Because you're going to need something to fall back on. You just don't know what could happen. So that was the thing that needed to happen. And because God had me saving those checks 3 years ago, I had a little cushion. Number two, God is going to tell you to start by just taking the first step in faith. And when you step in faith, then he starts to like kind of like open up doors. So the next step was, like the next day, he just said, because I started to get all these thoughts swirling in my head, like, how am I going to start? What am I going to do? Da, 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 da. My head was spinning, right? And I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, like, very, very, very sharply, like, don't worry about all that. Just start with the boring stuff, which is filing for the paperwork. So I started to file. I went to my financial consultant, which I actually have a meeting with him today, and like I have to leave here in 20 minutes to go see him because he's going to help me file my taxes for my first quarter of being in business. But he suggested open up an LLC. You're going to need your reseller's permit. You're going to need this, you're going to need that. So first step, get all of your licensing, get all of your permits done. That's going to take several weeks. Don't worry about what color scheme is my business going to be. That's the fun stuff. Okay, like that stuff is fun, but like that's not the part that matters. The foundation of your business is the most important. So you need to get the foundation of your business up. So that's the paperwork, all the legal stuff. Get that done. It's going to take a few weeks. So, okay. Once that was done, I had gotten to the point where I got my LLC, my reseller's permit. I had gotten to the point where it was time to open up my bank accounts. Okay, because you need bank accounts for this so that you can basically expense everything. Everything's going to be in one bank account. It's all clean. Like you can show your financial advisor, this is what, like, is this that. So I can't make this stuff up. So I go to open up my bank account. My financial advisor tells me, you're going to love US Bank for a business owner. Go to US Bank. They don't have any fees. So if you're wondering, go to US Bank. So I went to US Bank, open up my checking account, open up a business credit card, which I don't suggest that unless you are really, like, you have the money to spend. Don't get a credit card unless you don't have the money, unless you have the money. But so I go there, and then my personal banker tells me, which by the way, as I'm driving into the plaza to go to the bank, I see the building that I'm renting in right now. I see it and I say, that building looks interesting. I think I'm gonna check that out after I go to the bank. I go to the bank. My banker tells me, oh, like once we're done with everything, she goes, you should really check out that building. And I was like, wow. This is proof that God will literally, like, if you are faithful with the step, he's gonna like show you the next step. And so I was like, okay, confirmation again. So I go to the building. There's someone there to give me a tour. They give me a full tour. It's expensive, but I feel in my spirit like it's the place. So anyway, long story short, I pray about it, of course, and I end up taking the plunge and just signing the lease. Once the lease was signed, that's when I started to purchase all of, like, put the plan together of how to furnish it. Okay, and because I had that savings account, because I was still working at my job, I was able to pay for all that. And that was when I put in my 2 weeks. So I put in my 2 weeks, and simultaneously I was furnishing my place. By the time my 2 weeks was up, that was going to be my opening date. I gave myself about 4 days to furnish the room. Saturday of that week was my open date. That's how my business got started. Oh, one last thing that I have to say is that the next thing that God had me do, which I actually didn't mention at the beginning, was he had me start my social media geared toward specifically my business, the skill that I was doing. So that was exactly a year. I think it was like 13 months prior to opening up my business. He had me start my social media presence. And I didn't understand why he would want me to do that, because again, it goes back to the same thing, why he would want me saving during the pandemic in the first year of being an employee. All of those steps accumulated and added up to where I am now. So he had me start that social media platform because I didn't know it at the time, but I was going to have my own business. But at the time I thought that I just wanted to, I didn't know why I was doing it. I just did it. I was just obedient to God. I said, okay, God, like, I'll just do whatever you say, whatever you say. And it didn't make sense for me to do it because the company I was working for was obviously feeding me leads. But when I knew it was time to leave was when my days were being filled with more of my own leads than the leads that came from the business. That's when I was like, it's time to go. It's time to pack up. Like, woo, we did it. Everything's lining up. And that's how it all happened. Amazing, you guys. Being an entrepreneur is certainly not easy, but I think because of all of the things that he had me go through at my last job, I have the bandwidth and I have the strength and the stamina to keep it up. But if it wasn't for those jobs, if it wasn't for everything leading up until that, I wouldn't have it. And so I think, like, if you've made it here to this part of the video, first of all, you're a real one. Second of all, trust me when I say none of this is a waste, okay? If you need any prayer, feel free to drop a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe, like this video if you're into this self-development type of video. You got this. You know, you're not alone. You can definitely start a business, but you cannot be impulsive. You can't just rage quit, you know? Like, you have to have a plan. God is God of order, not the God of confusion. So let him show you what to do. Actually, my mom's calling me right now, so gonna answer that. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next sit down chat. We're gonna yap some more. Oh my gosh, that's so fast.
And then if the map says I'll be there.